Hi, everybody. My name is Neil Thompson. I am the founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. The first offering of the platform is a public speaking course called Teach the Geek to Speak. To learn more about it, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that is teachthegeek.com. My guest today is Steve Buchanan, and I learned of him from last year's Blacks in Technology conference. It was the inaugural conference. They actually just had their second one, I think, last week or so. I wasn't able to go to that one, but the first one was great. Steve works as a group manager at Avanade. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's
Yeah,
also
Avanade.
Avanade, great. He's also a Microsoft MVP, and he maintains a technology blog called Buchatech. And I'm interested to learn more about what a Microsoft MVP is because I have absolutely no clue. I want to learn more about how his motivation in getting into tech and any future plans for his blog. Thanks for being here, Steve.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be a part of your show here.
Excellent. So first question, where did your interest in tech come from?
Well, I, kind of stumbled into tech, landed a job just, working as a PC tech, like senior year of high school, and got into networking and building servers and stuff, and caught the bug from there and decided, tech would be the path for me to go down.
Nice. And then I mentioned in the intro that you work as a group manager at Avanade. What exactly does your job entail?
Yeah, so with Avanade, we're actually a part of Accenture, and I'm a part of a cloud transformation team. And I focus on Microsoft technologies, so I work a lot with Azure, doing various projects in Azure, whether it's migrating entire data centers to Azure. I've done SAP on Azure projects. I've done like a lot of infrastructure as code, so using like ARM templates and Terraform, PowerShell, and Ansible, um, and just like tons of automation. And then also doing some DevOps, right? So doing some things with like Azure DevOps and CI/CD pipelines, as well as a lot of monitoring for like development teams. I've done quite a bit of that as well. So it's a variety of things. It's exciting, it's a lot of changes, and keeps things very interesting.
So I know that Accenture is a very big company, and the fact that you work for, I guess, an offshoot of it, it means that you also work for a very big company. What's it like working for a company that large? Do you have any kind of insight as to working for a big company as opposed to a smaller one?
Yeah. So Avanade started out as a partnership between like Microsoft and Accenture, and so Avanade is pretty large as well. Avanade is 37,000 employees globally. Um, and so, yeah, we're a part of Accenture. Both companies are very large, and like Accenture is massive. Um, I'd say it's great because there's a ton of interesting projects, right? And like a lot of the stuff we do is cutting edge, which keeps it very, very interesting. Um, I've worked at smaller companies too, and like medium-sized companies, and there's definitely pros there as well. And a lot of times, I'd say the biggest difference between very large companies and smaller companies is probably more process and less process, right? Sometimes smaller companies are able to move faster, but sometimes they don't have as big of budgets, right, to do as much. And so there's definitely trade-offs between the two. And it's just fun. Yeah.
If that's funny, you're absolutely right. The smaller companies, yeah, they're way more nimble. They can move quicker, but because they don't have the money, where are they moving to?
Exactly. So
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so I also mentioned in the intro that you're a Microsoft MVP. What exactly does that mean?
yeah, so a lot of I'll start out by saying like a lot of companies have MVP programs, or they'll have MVP like programs, and they'll have different names. For example, Cisco has a program called the Cisco Champion. I know VMware has one, and Salesforce has one as well. And I know a Salesforce MVP, Shauna Hughes. Shout out to her. The MVP program with Microsoft is basically an annual award, So you have to be nominated for it, and then you're evaluated, and Microsoft decides if you're in or out of the program. Once you're in the program, you get closer to like the product groups, and you're able to give like feedback. You're able to learn about the technologies and products that are coming out like pretty early on. We have to sign an NDA, so we can't really talk about what we learn about. Um, and then it's just all about getting closer to Microsoft, and then getting closer and building relationships with other MVPs around the world as well, and evangelizing in a particular space, right? So I do a ton of stuff in Azure and cloud around Microsoft's products. That's what I focus on. And before I moved over to cloud, I was a system center guy. You'll probably notice like the MMS logo here on my hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a part of the MMS like conference. I typically go and speak every year, and we do stuff on System Center as well as cloud and things like Intune and Azure. But a lot of MVPs, speak and write books and stuff like that. So.
Interesting. And who exactly nominates you for the Microsoft MVP?
Right now with Microsoft, you have to be nominated by either a Microsoft employee or a current MVP.
Oh, okay. And is this something that you kind of campaign for? So you kind of go around to other, the other MVPs or the Microsoft employees, like, hey man, I'm trying to get in this MVP program. Hook a brother up. Is it kind of like that?
You can certainly do that. For me, it wasn't a plan to become an MVP. It was just like I was working hard in the community, and helping folks in the community fill in some gaps. And some other MVPs recognize that, and they're like, hey man, you should become an MVP. We're going to nominate you and get you in. And I was like, okay, sounds good to me. And so, it just kind of went from there. It is good to network, I guess, with Microsoft as well as other MVPs, and becoming an MVP can be a goal. I wouldn't hang your hat on that, because some people make it in and some people just never make it in. If you do a quick search out there, there are a lot of blogs on the process of becoming an MVP and like what Microsoft evaluates you on. So if you are interested in it, I'd run a quick search and check it out. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to it, and you meet a lot of great people being a part of the MVP program. And again, like if you're watching this and you're not focused on Microsoft, maybe you're like a Cisco expert and that's the area you focus in, they have a program like that too. If you're like into Veeam, I know they have one. Again, if you're into like Salesforce, they have an MVP program. So a lot of the tech companies have programs like that.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And I mentioned also in the intro that you have a blog called Buchatech. What was your motivation for starting that, and what do you hope people get from it?
Yeah, so I think I started that back in like 2007, and the motivation for starting that was, I used blogs all throughout my career. I've also used like forums, right? When I was working on projects or had to get things done or ran into issues, and the official documentation from the vendor, they aren't always up to par, or if there's a specific issue, you won't find that in the documentation. So you find that out there online, right, from other people that have experienced it and have found a solution. So I realized like, hey, I should be contributing to this as well, and just giving back to the tech community through my blog. And that's kind of where it started, and that was the motivation. And that continues to be the motivation today, right? Whenever I do something new or kind of figure out something, if it's not out there online already, or maybe I want to do a write-up and kind of simplify the steps so someone else can follow along, then I write a blog and put it out there. And the goal is just to help others, right? Help others that are working in IT, and hopefully folks find it useful.
Nice. Yeah, well, that's a very noble goal. A lot of times when people advance through their career, they may not want to, I guess, reach down to help people that are coming up. So the fact that you put together a blog to help those that that can use it, that's commendable.
Awesome.
So a question that I have, so this question I asked at last year's Blacks in Tech conference. It was during one of the sessions as a panel, and the question was about coding boot camps. I don't know if you have any kind of opinion on them, but the question I had was, they're becoming a lot more prevalent. People that with, I guess, non-tech backgrounds going to coding boot camps for however long, and then getting jobs at tech companies. And I was curious as to their advancement opportunities, considering that they don't have, computer science or computer engineering degrees, how far up in a corporation they could go. And the question, the answer I got at the conference was, it is actually possible to advance with just with a coding boot camp background. What's your take on coding boot camps? Are those graduates equivalent to people that graduate with computer science degrees, and are they promotable?
That's a great question. So I've never actually done a coding boot camp. I've mostly been on the infrastructure side. Early on in my career, I did go to a boot camp school, right? Certification school when those were a thing. And the training was like super intense. I think it was awesome actually. And it was some of the best training that I've ever done in my career, because it was a lot of diving into the theory and then diving into the hands-on. Are they good for your career? I think so. Is it a way for folks to get into IT and kind of jumpstart their career? Definitely. Can you advance throughout your career? Starting out through boot camp? Definitely, right? I have friends that have degrees. I have a degree myself. I also have friends that don't have degrees, right? They finished high school and then they went right into tech through just various avenues, and they've been able to do well. I think it depends on what your long-term goals are and what you want to do. And one of the things that I've seen is, like, if you want to go into management within tech, right, a degree really helps you there. If you're just want to get really advanced and kind of move up within the tech space, I think your tech skills are what companies really look at, right? So that coding boot camp or that infrastructure boot camp will definitely help you get in the door. And it's more about, like, hey, can you actually do the work? Do you know the tech? So I think it depends, and you could certainly be successful and have a successful career just with a boot camp. I've also seen, like, articles lately, right, within the past year or so, that big tech companies like Microsoft, like Google, like Facebook, etc., are starting to hire folks that don't have degrees but have the proven, like, technical skills, right? So I think companies are realizing that not everybody goes to college to get a degree, and maybe that's not the path for everyone, but they have taken other avenues to kind of beef up their technical skills. So I do think there's value in degrees. Like, a lot of jobs out there require degrees, or companies want degrees, and there's benefits, right, to going through that and completing that. Now, I think that in the US, like, our college education system is super expensive, and that needs to be fixed, right? So I think degrees are a good thing, but minimizing the cost as you're going for that degree is like a must, right? So.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Here in the U.S., the college costs are ridiculous, and you'll spend years paying back those student loans if you weren't able to pay for it all the way going through. And the fact that
Exactly.
these other companies are now not requiring degrees, I'm curious as to whether that affects wages, because you had to keep wages high so people could pay back these loans. So if more people are coming into these companies that don't have those loans, that don't have those that student debt, can you pay them less because they don't have to pay that back, that money back?
Well, I think that's a good discussion point too, and I think it depends, right? I do have some friends that don't have the college degrees, and to be honest, they're in the six figures. So they're doing quite well. Um, Now, is it going to limit you not having a degree as far as pay? Maybe, maybe not. But if you go out there and look at headlines and stuff and kind of see what's going on in the market, pay attention to jobs that are out there, check out sites like dice.com. And there's a lot of salary reports that come out. I mean, salaries for IT are not decreasing, they're increasing because the demand is increasing and there's not enough people to fill the demand. Right?
so,
So,
so why the hell would you go to school? I'd be like, skip school, just do a coding boot camp. They're not all that expensive, and get the six figures, and you live it.
well, I think to be honest though, you will go if you go through a boot camp and you come out of that, you're probably not going to hit six figures like out of the gate, right? Running. The folks I've talked about, friends of mine that have achieved the six figures, they've made some of the right decisions, right? They've focused their career around some of the right technologies. So you have to have some foresight there, and then they also have years of experience, right? So they've put in the work. So I think for anyone watching this, just realize that, right? It's not like IT is not a get rich quick type of scheme thing where you're just going to do a boot camp and then you're going to be, six figures. You still got to put in the work.
All right, I
Right?
got you.
So,
So I know you'd mentioned that being a Microsoft MVP has led to speaking opportunities for you. Have you always been proficient at public speaking? And if so, what have you done to make yourself better at it?
no, I have not. In fact, I've never really considered myself a public speaker. Um, Becoming an MVP really helped me grow in that aspect, as well as, I think as soon as I became an MVP, companies that I worked for, they sort of just expected me to be able to speak, right? So it was stretching me, challenging me, getting me out there, like, hey, we need you to speak at this event. Hey, we need you to present to these customers. We need you to give these demos. And over time, I think I just became more comfortable with it, right? Um, and that led to like doing conferences. And like my first ever conference, speaking at a conference actually was MMS. Um, and buddy of mine, Sam Ernstine, shout out to him. He's another MVP based out of the UK. Um, he was like, hey, I'm doing this session at MMS. You got to be a part of it. You'll be a co-speaker. Don't worry about it. Just jump on and we'll knock this out. And that was like my first time like officially speaking at a conference. And, it was fine. Like a lot of people have fear of public speaking. And, I got up there and rocked it out with Sam and our other co-speaker and lived through it. So
Yeah.
it's for anyone that wants to do public speaking and get better at that, like if that's a goal of yours, I would say just get started. Just jump out there. You could start with like a local user group, start with maybe smaller crowds, and just get out there and you'll kind of you'll find your rhythm, and you'll grow from there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. That doesn't just apply to public speaking, but damn near everything. You don't get better at stuff until you actually do them. You could read all the books and listen to all the podcasts, take courses, but unless you get out there and do it, all that work won't really amount to much.
Yeah, spot on, spot on.
Yeah. So, do you ever get nervous when it comes to public speaking? And if so, how you calm your nerves?
Every single time. I don't think that ever goes away, right? You always get nervous. Now, for me, I get nervous because I want to make sure that I'm doing a good job, like I'm, you know, hitting the right points from a technical standpoint. I'm conveying the right information. Um, I want to make sure that I'm bringing value to the crowd that I'm speaking to, right? So that's where the nervousness comes from. Um, that's decreased over time. Like I don't get as nervous as maybe I used to. And when I do, it's being nervous about different things. It's not so much about like, hey, I'm going to speak in front of a crowd and this is a scary thing, it's more about like, am I bringing value to these folks?
You know
Right.
what? You're absolutely right, Steve. When it comes to public speaking, anybody who says that they don't get nervous before they go up in front of a crowd to speak is a liar. And and you know what? It's normal. It's normal to get nervous. I firmly believe that if you're not if you're not nervous before you actually speak in front of people, it's because you don't care about what you're talking about. So when you mention, providing value and making sure you do a good job, it's obvious that you actually care about what you're talking about, and you hope that the people are engaged and actually get something out of what you're talking about. So being nervous is natural. It's normal.
Spot on.
Yeah. So what tips can you offer somebody who wants to get better at public speaking? I know you mentioned, just getting out there. Is there anything else you could add?
Everyone has like their different methods and different approaches. For me, I don't actually rehearse, or I do like rehearse in my mind my content. I don't memorize it. I want it to flow naturally. So what I do is sort of build the content, kind of use that as my outline. The key is knowing what you're talking about, right? I've, I've been in a situation before where like I was handed a PowerPoint and they were like, okay, this is what you're going to present on.
Go do it.
I had not seen the content before that, right? So
Right.
let's just say that one didn't go that well. So now I'm very adamant about like, hey, I'm going to build the content, or if you've built some of the content, let me get it way ahead of time. I may modify the content, or at least I'm going to, know this content in and out. That really helps. And then just for someone that's starting, like, again, start with a smaller avenue, right? So user groups are a great way to start, and there's usually user groups no matter where you are, right? That's a good way to kind of get started, and it's
Yeah.
a very forgiving platform, right? If you do make mistakes, don't worry about it. A lot of times the people in the crowd, they're rooting for you, they're cheering for you, right? They want you to do a good job, and
Yeah.
it's okay too if you're speaking, like, it's okay to tell the crowd, hey, I'm new at this. Just be honest, just be open, get up there and rock it out.
Yeah, man, you're absolutely right, Steve. Yeah, you definitely gotta know what you're talking about when you get up there. I mean, you're already nervous even when you know what you're talking about. When you get up
Yeah.
there, you just here's some PowerPoints. Get up there and get busy. Like, come on,
Trust
man.
me, that can happen if you let like people do that, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. Yeah, you definitely gotta know what you're talking about. That helps. And I'm with you on not memorizing. I'm a big fan of that too. It comes across as robotic when and then not only
Exactly.
that, but it can be used as almost as a crutch. Because what if you miss a word, then you're like, oh crap, what was the word I was supposed to say after this one? And then now you're kind of,
Exactly.
it throws you off your game, and now you're in free fall, and people are looking at you, and they're like, what's this guy talking about? But yeah, you're absolutely right. You prepare an outline and know what you're talking about. In your outline what comes first, second, third. Then you'll be all right. I think that's perfect advice.
And one more thing too for the public speaking for folks getting started. So I treat it as a conversation, and I try to engage folks that are in the audience. If you can get some of that back and forth and just turn it into a conversation, almost like what we're doing right here, right?
For sure.
You can get up in a public speaking forum and do this right here, and people will get value out of that.
Not only that, Steve, but if people think that there's a possibility that they might get called on at any moment, they're probably going to listen.
They will. They will listen because they don't want to.
You're not gonna catch me out there, man.
Right.
Well, this has been great, Steve. Thank you again for agreeing to do this. Is there anything else that you'd like people to know about what you're working on?
So I do have a new book coming out in the near future. It's on Azure Kubernetes service, so check out that when it releases. You can follow my blog, so it's buchatech.com, and I'm under the same on Twitter as well, so at Buchatech. So stay tuned for that book, and hopefully you pick that up and get involved in Kubernetes.
Excellent. So you got a book coming out. If people want to get in touch with you, they can hit up buchatech.com. They can also tweet at you at Buchatech.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Again, thanks for making time to do this, Steve. For everyone out there watching and listening, my name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. The first offering of the platform is a public speaking course called Teach the Geek to Speak. To learn more about it, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care.
Thanks.